Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of The X Button, Season 3, Episode 19. I'm one of your hosts, Alejandro. With me is the descendant of the Sonai.
Paul. Hey, everybody. I don't want to be here.
Me neither. This is the first time in 102 episodes we've done in over 2 years where I'm like, all right, it's another week. We have to record this. But it's more because, like, the thing that we're stopping to do because of why we have to do the show for is just something that I can't wait to go back to. Even though I still love doing the show about it. It's just that kind of time, people.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
I want to be playing Legend of Zelda so badly right now.
Yeah,
It is a drug for me. I just... Gotta get more.
Yeah, before we jump into that, let's not get caught up in the rigmarole. This is the X-Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Fridays from 2 p.m. onwards, God willing. Available on the YouTube channel Escape Gaming, as well as most audio services around the world. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links in the RSS feed at podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/escape-gaming. If you enjoy your show, give us a like and subscribe. So, Paul, we have both been playing The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It came out literally the night after we recorded the last episode when we had our friend Duncan join in so he could talk about him being like in the opposite side of Redfall. I still feel that game is a piece of crap, but hey, he found enjoyment of that. But it's like, I can't believe I'm this enchanted currently with this new game, but I want to hear from you first before I go on a diatribe.
Wait, you said disenchanted. I want to clarify.
No,
that you meant
enchanted. I have been enchanted.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I see what you mean now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's I think back on how we talked about it the entire year leading up to this point.
And last year,
especially, and last year, but especially after Elden Ring, of course, swept the game awards, and we talked about how it took them so long to make Tears of the Kingdom. There's no way they can course correct from all of the crazy jumps forward that Elden Ring made. They're going to really need to revamp completely the gameplay loop and completely change things. They're going to have to add like an entire above and below. And I'm trying to remember exactly what else we might have said, like completely change the way the story plays out. And
I mean, add my thoughts. Breath of the Wild was overrated. I've said that. I said it very clear back in January. So like all of that.
Well, that's a completely separate discussion. That's granted and fair. It's very much. We also, I mean, maybe we can even open that can of worms at some point about how your specific life position when Breath of the Wild was coming out, why it affected you so much, and why that kind of affected your view
my opinion
on it
to
begin with. But just like I think Zach was the one that said it, our friend, explained that because the three of us are in tandem, each experiencing like different parts of the game, and immediately feed back into that kind of brain trust, and then somebody else feeds in, hey, I experienced this other thing, and you're just like, what?
No,
this is crazy.
That's the thing. I'm willing to open that can of worms. I think we both have agreed that 2017 was a trying year for us. And did I hear your dog right now?
Yeah, that was him finally.
Finally, yeah. So 2017 was a trying year for me. Like the year immediately after I graduated, I had no money. I was waiting for work permits and all that because I was international during the US. So by the time the Breath of the Wild came out, like, of course I didn't have the money to secure a Switch because I didn't buy a Wii U before. And our fellow friend PJ/JOK, back then, like, he blasted through Breath of the Wild on Wii U. He actually bought it on Wii U. And then he was like, I'll let you borrow my Wii U for a little bit so you can play it. So on top of like being in at a time where I was like in such constraints in my life, and then having a borrowed system to just kind of blow through that game, I never got to experience Breath of the Wild like as a communal experience that I had with you and Zach with Elden Ring and we're having now here. And I had to rush, like just try to beeline through that game because I didn't want to leave it like unfinished whenever I returned the console to him. And I saw it more as a Zelda game instead of more the things that it was doing different. Like I didn't quite engage with it at that on that same level. So that's why, like, to me, like, I always saw Breath of the Wild as that Zelda game that, me being a big fan of the older style Zelda game, that compare and contrast, that's why I was always like, Yeah, I don't think this is like the greatest thing since sliced bread that people claim it is, especially since we got the GQ list that we talked about last week that crowned Breath of the Wild again the greatest game of all time again, and I was like, one day I'm gonna like maybe I'll find it in me too, because I did play Breath of the Wild a second time when I finally got my Switch. And I got to explore it, and that's when I was able to tell. It's like, I can respect for what it did for open world games, because that's kind of impressive, but it's like, me being a big Zelda fan, I wanted all of the other stuff that it didn't have. I'm willing to say it right now, Paul. I think Tears of the Kingdom is my favorite game of all time. I'm throwing that out there.
You're throwing it, calling your shot.
Yeah, I'm calling a shot right now. It's like, I feel that with Tears of the Kingdom, I am seeing currently all that I heard people told me Breath of the Wild was. It's like, this is a game that is consuming my ever-living being, like, every minute. I'm thinking about it. I'm looking videos about it. Like, my TikTok is filled with that insanity that has just been, like, this game's sandbox. I even told you, like, whenever we reacted to the demo that they showed, the 10-minute thing where it was the first look at just uncut gameplay, and obviously we talked about it. It's like, yeah, this kind of looks a little old, but then I even told you, it's like, that fuse mechanic, if it works like they say it works, my brain is just breaking with like the potential of the limitless possibilities of what you could do with this game, especially if it's as polished as Breath of the Wild was. That's kind of like the biggest achievement that Breath of the Wild was as a game, is that on top of being Nintendo's first ever open world game, they made an open world physics-based sandbox that never breaks unintentionally in a way that, like, you think the Goat Simulator, so like all these broken pieces of crap that launches in Steam, that is just you manipulating stuff. But
there was one point I unintentionally glitched a game that I'll tell about it later. It's just more funny than anything, but continue.
But yeah, so it was like, if Nintendo is able to once again pull off like such a polished game, and a game that is seemingly bigger, which, by the way, people, is like, this game's huge, like in size, in landmass, and somehow running better than the last game on the Switch of all systems, like not an upgrade, like not a new Switch. It's like they're using the exact same hardware that launched back in 2017. Somehow Nintendo made a game that works even better.
And I remember Breath of the Wild chugged many times, and I'd say this only does the same amount of frame rate drops that Breath of the Wild does. I wouldn't say it's any like new problem at all. It's just like, that's part of what that is. But
that's the thing. Like, I tested this. I did pop Breath of the Wild back again and just ran around.
Oh yeah?
In the field, heading into Hyrule Castle, it chugs in the 20s. It doesn't in Tears of the Kingdom. Somehow, it's like the only time that this game chugs is back in Kakariko Village. And Kakariko Village is an even bigger chugger in Breath of the Wild than it is here. And this game,
it's bigger now in general too.
Yeah,
I think.
Exactly. So, because let's not bury the lead. It's like, it not only reuses the same map, there's many different islands up in the sky that are already loaded in that you can go there at any time. And on top of that, they made an entire big ass map down in the depths. So, there's an entire underground section that's not just a tiny thing. It's an entire map that is the exact same size already as the big map up in the sky. And the fact that all of that is happening in the Switch hardware of all things at 16 gigabytes. It's like, there's a Naughty Dog developer, like a former, his name is Josh Sher. The first thing he tweeted is like, Nintendo, what black magic did you do to make this game in such limited hardware? Because let's just say it like this, like, obviously, like, over on PlayStation and over on Xbox, the power there, like, obviously we've seen like many big open world games, like, of course, I mean, Horizon Forbidden West, very big game, like, relatively speaking, like, very beautiful in fidelity and all that. Somehow I find this even more impressive because I know the PS5 is powerful. I would expect a powerful system to give me a game like Horizon. I don't expect the Switch to give me a game with this million permutations. Like, it has bigger constraints, and Nintendo was able to squeeze everything out of this to the point that I'm like, PlayStation and Xbox should be thankful that they're not in the power in the power kind of like arms race with them, because it's like, imagine if Nintendo was given like all the power that PlayStation and Xbox are given to make their games, like, they should be feel thankful that it's like, because if they're playing in that same level, and they do the same approach to physics, to game design, like, and everything like molded together into like a one cohesive package in a way that in any other game it would feel completely incohesive. Like, I'm so mighty impressed with Tears of the Kingdom. Like, mighty impressed. Anything you want to add to that?
I, at the risk of continuing to gush, it is it's a game that I even started to lose faith in, despite it being my number one most anticipated last year, and slipping to like fourth or five this year.
It was fourth this year. Yeah, and it was my ninth one. And it was my ninth one for whenever we did most anticipated games. So an honorable mention last year. So people, I came in with baggage. That's the thing. Like, I really like came in with like a stick in the mud towards this one.
You were the closest thing to a skeptic for this game that I could imagine. And for me, I was starting to get to that point because I was so worried about exactly what they would do. Are they just going to reuse the exact same gameplay loop and process? It's just going to be the same thing, especially when I saw the fusing mechanic. I didn't see what you could do with it. I only saw kind of like a few of the items. I thought it was going to be a lot more limited on what you could stick to what, how that was going to work. I didn't understand how you could expand your battery life, because I know like they showed some with a little bit more battery life. I didn't think it would be like the way you could expand it now, where you can not only fill it completely up, but you can fill it a second time, so it's like blue, and then it goes an entire time before it goes down. I didn't realize that it wasn't going to just delete itself after 3 seconds. I didn't realize kind of how you could fuse some of the weapons together in a practical way, because I was like, I don't want to fuse a sword to another sword. I don't want to fuse the spear to another spear. I don't want to fuse a mushroom to my shield. That just looks ridiculous. And then I realized that, no, they made things that look specifically like weapons, so that when you fuse it, it still looks like a good weapon, which made me happy.
But even then, you can make complete monstrosities out of weapons, and it works.
Yeah, how practical it is, I was not also expecting, or how easy it was to collect the items needed to fuse items. I thought it was going to be a lot more scarce, and I'm so glad that they just give you resources everywhere to just easily throw things on your weapons at any time. Just
this is a literal immersive sim in every way you can like think about it. It's like Breath of the Wild had immersive sim elements, but it was like minimal. But the physics allowed people that really were smart and experimental to make that game behave in ways that I don't think Nintendo was expecting, but because they made such a polished product, it somehow ended up working. And this game is Nintendo completely leaning on that. And somehow like completely eliminating all the abilities they gave you in the last time. So no stasis, no infinite bombs, no the only thing, the Alter Hand, there's an analog in Breath of the Wild of having something that you can like move around, but this one not only you move around, but you reshape things by like sticking them to everything. That's kind of where the fuse mechanic kind of comes in. And probably the biggest achievement, it makes everything that you do in that game have a meaning. I went back to my Breath of the Wild save. I had so much crap in my inventory that back then the only reason why you have so much of that crap is to sell it or do the cooking mechanic, to do elixirs or do food and all that. And to me, I was like, I don't want to be like experimenting, like being in the cooking and wait for the thing and see Link like stare at the things, jump and dance before they become a thing. So it was like I did that one time back in Breath of the Wild. I was like, yeah, this is neat, but this is not like, is this the whole point of like what I'm like hoarding all these things on top of like the weapons degradation that was a big problem for me in Breath of the Wild, but somehow it's not here. But I feel that it's also because the fuse mechanic really has added extra durability to weapons in an interesting way, especially where, for example, you do I've done the craze for like, I'm gonna fuse a spear with another spear, and while I'm using that, like the spear at the front breaks, so I'm like, okay, time to like see what else I can fuse it with, that it's around me or in my inventory, just throw it there and like infuse it and continue the combat loop, or everything that you can stick into your bows now. I'll say this, like, there's probably a slight step back from Breath of the Wild in that maybe I do miss a little bit having elemental arrows with me. Do you remember that you could have your normal arrows, you could have bomb arrows, you could have your fire, ice, electricity arrows, the guardian arrows. Technically, with probably the exception of, well, no, actually, no. You could technically have all of that. It's just that you have to craft it in the moment. So there's
I think I actually had the opposite reaction because I never had more than like 5 to 10 elemental arrows with me because it cost
I had like 100.
So much.
I had hundreds of those.
I don't know how or why, because it felt like it was never worth spending it on that as opposed to spending it on regular arrows, because I was already struggling to keep a certain amount of arrows in my hand at all times in Breath of the Wild. So this time it's like, okay, I've already got all that I need with these arrows. All I have to do is, because they're like my second most used item, it's as long as it's filtered in that direction, it's just immediate. I have like 60, 70 of those fire fruits at all times because it's easily one of the most prolific
things you can find
lying around everywhere. So you just mash A a couple times as you run by. All right, I got 3 more of those. And especially now that I have plenty of money, I can just buy all the arrows I want and not have to worry about
and much
things.
easier to find arrows in the world. Like, they're always in the big crates that you can just lift up, drop, and there's always at least 2 of them, if not 5 of them randomly.
It's easier to pick up arrows that you fired and that have been fired at you. It feels like it's much more common. Even if they go into something hard, it doesn't just break the arrow. You can just run back and pick it up after you finish using it.
Yeah, but it's like that's the thing. It's like there's just an extra step that you have the thing. So you have to like hold the arrow, press up on the D-pad, select the thing. Now you have your fire arrow. For example, if you have the fruit, back in Breath of the Wild, you could have just an arrow already equipped for that to happen. So it was like if you had those, that step was faster. But this comes now like with the advantage that everything now in the world feels like it has some meaning. Like, and that to me is like a big achievement, that finally they take everything that they did from Breath of the Wild, and now everything, you don't feel like you have much, you don't waste as much time here as you did in Breath of the Wild. I feel like you're more constantly rewarded here thanks to everything having some normal use. And then of course it's like just the fact that with the fuse mechanic and all the things that you can find in the world, we have people building Ava mechs now. Go to TikTok, people, put Tears of the Kingdom and see the insanity that people are like building here. It's like this is taking the nuts and bolts thing from Banjo-Kazooie and multiplying it tenfold in a bigger game, in a much more polished game, and have the creativity that I feel people feel when they go into Minecraft, and have that in like an actual polished AAA product. That's how this feels. And how about the story, Paul? Like, I'll say this, like, if you can have like maybe a disappointment like in the way they still tell the stories, the fact that there's still it's a story that you have to kind of go find in a way. So it's like it's not something that you can linearly get all the details that you want like just by following like a mainline path. I will say though that this game does tell way more story than Breath of the Wild did, even from the very beginning. In fact, I remember when it started, I was like, this is odd. It's like, are they really like expo dumping now? Like, compared to how Breath of the Wild starts, it was like, Link, wake up, Link. And you just wake up, like, and you know what happened, and then you just go with the things and go into the Great Plateaus. Like, now there's like, it establishes backstory, and...
Would you almost say they do the Horizon Forbidden West method? Because now you know the mystery of the world.
Yeah.
And it's more of a bouncing off point from that.
I would say yes, it's like, because it's like we're still visiting the same world. I would say that it's still funny that the same world no longer has the shrines from the Guardians. That there's like no remnants of those Guardians anymore.
There's
but it's
no Guardians at all.
I know. Which I will say, it actually feels really nice that I can explore, and I like know there's not gonna be like the piano's gonna start like scrambling, and then you're gonna hear the big machine that's like lasering focus, like it's sniping you, and then have the big laser that could like one hit kill you. They replace it with a much more terrifying enemy, the hands. Like the demonic hands.
Yes.
But those are easier.
Oh,
those are easier to evade.
Overall, yes, because if you can get a list of them quick enough, you can immediately like keep them grouped together because they never split off. If they split up,
It's a nightmare.
That would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But they kind of stay within that one grouping. So anyway, yeah, just to not spoil too much about the events of the game itself, the story, I think, is definitely a step up from Breath of the Wild, for sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because Breath of the Wild had no story.
Yeah. It had backstory you could fill up, but there had no story. The things that you're finding here through the memories, through the tears now, which I like much the system. I like the system much better because it's way easier to find. Like there's like if you mainline to Rito Village, which is kind of like where the game funnels you to, you can like find Impa.
Does.
You can find Impa. Impa kind of teaches you the mechanic of finding the tears, and then if you follow her to a temple, you're gonna see a carved out map that if you take a picture of it, it literally marks every point where the tears are. Like everywhere.
I've noticed a lot of the really good environmental world building like that. Mm-hmm. One of the examples being a thing that you and I talked about actually at the central mining area with that one item. There was kind of a diagram of something that looks like a reward, and then it had like a split off with an emblem of sorts to different parts of the map. And if you just take a picture of that or remember it, it tells you where to go to find all of the other things that you need. It's like everything, and I'm just so impressed. I know that goes back into like the atmosphere and everything else, but just how thoughtful they craft this world in such a thoughtful way that kind of intuitively you can figure out things in the world without hardly any direction. I mean, they just tell you, go southwest and you'll find a thing. Most 99% of other games, it's going to be a nightmare to deal with. But for some reason, the world funnels you in the right direction to just find what you need.
It's again why I said it's a marvel of game design. Elden Ring was the same way. This is the same way. It's like why this open worlds like work so different than the Ubisoft open worlds or other style is because those other ones are not thoughtfully designed to the world feel inviting itself for you to explore it. These games do. It's like they're so thoughtfully designed in a way that it hits that sweet spot. The game will tell you where to go. This game actually does tell you. It's like, yeah, go there. How you get there? It's like, you'll see. You'll get to visualize that adventure to you. So it's a more inviting way to do exploration in these kinds of games. And this does it even better than Breath of the Wild because it's like this, like the whole doing the thing at the depths where you follow the statues to get into like the different mines. It's like. Yeah. It's like, yes, it's like you're following a strict path, but it feels like you are following it. It's like you're making your way through that adventure. You're not just following a yellow dot in the map. And this game has this balance because obviously there's yellow dots in the map that will tell you where to go somewhere, but then you get into a place and then they will explain some things that you have to like pay attention to what they tell you, and then you go explore. Like in the Rito Village, you find one of those bears tell you, like, oh yeah, it's like the prince went up there to like, you'll see where there's a pine cone. And then I just went around and I look up and I saw pine cone. But it didn't have the yellow dot. So it's like the game entrusts the player to figure it out. And if there's something now, like especially with the massive success that we're seeing with this game, I feel like gamers are clearly speaking loud with their wallets to developers and saying, hey, devs, trust us. It's like, yes, you can nudge us a little bit, but don't treat us like idiots. Don't give us hints every 10 seconds. Don't constantly have a chatty catty of a protagonist that should be like, maybe I should climb up there. Maybe I should push this. Maybe I could climb up there. So I'm talking to you, Horizon. So and also Atreus, we're in God of War. It's like and because you are a very you're very well known to being very directionally challenged.
Very much.
And somehow this game, like, it's working for you. Like, with the minute, because it's so thoughtfully designed. It's like, that is a feat. Like such well-made design game that like, people that get lost so easy in other games can feel like they have a line through here. Because everything's so thoughtfully laid out. And man, it's like, it's like, I'm just so impressed, Paul. I'm like, legitimately shocked that I can be this impressed with this after scoffing at the last game. And part of me even feels like my scoffing feels warranted because I feel like I've seen this online. Many people that were kind of like in my camp that Breath of the Wild is good, but greatest game of all time, I'm not think so. But I feel this one is like, nah, I think this one we believe that. Like, if a new GQ list would come out and this was like a number one, I would be like, yeah, I actually like I agree with this one, not the last one, but this one. And obviously I have my own perspective of how I experienced that last one, that now I'm getting with this. But I feel like even you, that you really love Breath of the Wild more than I did. You can see this game is a step up in many ways, like dungeons.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's still not Twilight Princess dungeons, like the return of temples. And I've only done one. Have you done another one?
I've only done the one so far. I'm like very specifically trying to like
Savor it.
pace them out. Yeah, exactly. Because part of me was hoping that there would be more of like the dungeons, like granted the Elden Ring style of like there's a bunch of bite-sized better things, which there is. It's just less of a.
It's the shrines. The equivalent for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is the shrines. There's many of those, and most of the shrines. If there's something that I'm even more impressed with this game is the way that I could solve so many of those shrines. It feels like this game allows you to cheat, but it doesn't feel like it's cheating. It feels like you're using the tools they're giving you, and you're thinking of solutions that may not be the right solution, or maybe a different solution, but it still works. And the game still gives you the piano of like the thing that you get when you figure something out, and it makes you feel like you're the smartest person in the world. Be like, I think I can think outside the box with this. Like, and to me, it's like that's like daring. It's like, because it's like you're basically undercutting maybe the level designers of what the original intent of this was, but at the same time, because those are the tools that they've given to you, it still feels like a legit resolution to things. And because it's very easy to feel like you've solved the puzzle and you feel dumb for not figuring it out. Old Zelda games only had you one way to solve things. Breath of the Wild sort of kind of started toying with like, maybe if you manipulate things, you could like solve this in a way that maybe it's not the right way. Like, I remember that there was one shrine where you needed to like connect electricity to like open the door. And how I did it was that I dropped my weapons. Like, I lined up those weapons for the electricity, and it ended up working. That was one of the few times in Breath of the Wild that I was like, I can't believe this game let me do that. But that's the beauty of immersive sims. It's like you understanding the tools you're given and manipulating the world to your advantage. And this game has that like 110-fold. And before like moving away from like the story of it all, I have to say it because I've been seeing some comments online. I'm not gonna name names. How like people complaining about this game not having a story or having like a very simple story. I will say that demanding a Nintendo game to have stories like you going to a Burger King and asking for a pizza. That's not the point of these games, but I also have to give Nintendo some props, because how often have we always done the warrior has to save princess from evil lore? It's like that's always been kind of like the conceit of that. And to Nintendo's credit, if you look for that story, because that's the thing, like this game is so like gameplay first that if you want that story, you have to go look for it. It's like that. It like the game itself is the centerpiece of this, not a story. But if you go look the tiny kernels of story that they give you, the tale they tell, is like it's way more engaging. It feels like more prescient. Like, well, like not getting too big into spoilers. It's like, yes, Zelda disappeared at the beginning of the game after something happened, which introduces Ganondorf, which obviously we know Ganondorf is in this game, was all over like the big promotional materials of the last of the last trailers. But it feels this feels more like a detective story in a way, and you're like also following along where Zelda went. And Zelda is not just a damsel in distress. There's like, this is the most active I felt Zelda has felt in a story of this kind. That probably the last time she felt like that was Skyward Sword. I'm not a big fan of Skyward Sword, like in the game side, but I feel like the story is what deserved it. Like,
you finished Skyward Sword the first.
Yeah, no, I finished it. So it's like I know about the mice and all of that, and I will say this, like this feels like Nintendo's second attempt at trying a Skyward Sword. Because Skyward Sword obviously has like you go from heaven to earth and gives you like an origin story of things. This also feels like an origin story of the beginnings of Hyrule, where everything came, like who were the first civilization, which they call it the Sonai. And that to me is like really cool. And interesting things happen that kind of shattered the status quo. Like the very thing that happens to Link at the beginning and his weapon that felt like oh crap. That was like, I was not expecting that to happen. And some of the cutscenes that happen in the past that you find in those memories, they really go hard. Memory 8, Paul? The one that I kept telling you, because you found Memory 7, and then what you said is like, man, that was some deep crap. That was some crazy crap. I was like, good, wait until you see Memory 8. And Memory 8 felt like the entirety of the series kind of like made sense to me.
I appreciate that they're casting so much doubt about your own expectations for both the plot of the past and what's currently happening, where I think that's what a lot of people are going to complain about, because they're not going to go find the story.
Yeah.
Because it's very much not put out in front of you. And I'm not doing that, oh, they don't handhold you in the story. I somewhat agree in the fact that it's a little bit difficult to understand, especially if you are told to go anywhere you want, and then you are spoiled for the story by finding an out of order tier, and then you all of a sudden are burdened with information that you wish you didn't know because you didn't get to watch the previous cutscene first. Because I think my second tier was like the 13th one, and I was like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
And so, like, because Breath of the Wild, it worked because they were all so disparate. They all talked about a different thing, a different character, a different concept. It was very a vertical slice. What are you gonna say?
If you find the map that I told you, where Impa tells you, like, you find...
I'll agree to that.
And then, not only that, if you look at the walls from left to right, it tells you the order. It actually... This game actually, like, goes as far as telling you this is the order from 1 to 11. You just have to let... Yeah. So it's like, Nintendo does give you, like, the order. Like, if you look. And again, it's like, that is if you discover it. Yes, if you don't find that room and you just find it on your own, yes, there's that. But I feel I have to credit Nintendo that at least they gave... I'm actually going to send you the pictures after we're done, because I actually screenshotted them. And I used the screenshots as my base of how I was exploring the world. So it's like... So it's like Nintendo thought about all this, while not sacrificing the freedom. Because obviously, in previous games, you would have like a very strict path to follow. And... obviously, Zelda is now different. It's like now it's like this open air design that they have now. It's like what makes it cool is that it empowers the player to choose their adventure in a way that always feels legit. In them providing that map. That's how I found all of those things. Like obviously, you could find it just exploring on your own, because there's like these big paintings in the world that then you have to like walk around until you find like a specific tier. And you can do it on your own, but the game also gives you the tools to find them and the order you can find them on. So
I do kind of wish that I'd known about the order beforehand, because I did not catch that.
Yeah, but do you find the map that's like in the floor that has all the marks painted? Yeah, that's the thing. Like you didn't find that room. You didn't follow. I
never knew where that was.
You just had to follow Impa. Like if you follow her Impa's quest, there again yellow dots. Yeah, at the Forbidden Temple.
That it was, but it was like off in a canyon or something, and it was just out of the way enough that I was like, well, I'm just gonna go up to Rito Village, and then you immediately get locked into that whole storyline. And by the time I was done, you meet her again, and she's like, yeah, we're gonna go find the forbidden whatever. And I'm like, all right, cool, have fun with that. And then I just immediately went somewhere else.
So you didn't find the map. Like you didn't find, like, it literally has the entirety of Hyrule map, has all the things painted, literally. That's where you can find them, and then in the walls around that map, you see the order from 1 to 11.
That's a shame, but yeah, it's anyway. Just the fact that that's even an option, so it's like really a minor nitpick, but
and that's the thing, like this is just thoughtfulness of they have given the option for you to like linearly follow that if you find it. You decided not to do that, the game still goes, the game still the game still works. So that's the thing, like that, again, a feat of design that a game can work both ways. And let's not even talk about the whole Master Sword thing, which I had a big goof with you and Zach this week by spoiling a big moment that I thought was already you had already done because you told me you got the Master Sword. How you got the Master Sword there was going to the same place you got it in the last game, and then it kind of like sends you somewhere else. And the only thing you needed this time was having more stamina, other than the hearts, which in the last game you needed a lot of hearts to get the Master Sword. So I appreciate that Nintendo sped up the process to be able to get that weapon back again in this one. And the way you get it is epic AF.
Yes, and of course, for anybody listening this far enough in, worried that we're going to talk about spoilers, we're not going to talk about spoilers.
Yeah, I'm gonna bite my tongue as hard as I can, but
everything is very different in the way that you accomplish certain tasks that you thought would be the same, and I'm very happy for it. I'm really happy for the process to change things up. I'm glad they saw that coming, where if you go to the same place, they're like, yeah, it's not here, but let me tell you the general direction of where it is. They even putting a mark on your map, exactly kind of where it is, but not telling you what you need until you're kind of in it to win it, essentially. The crazy processes that you have to do where you just kind of find yourself locked into this crazy battle for your life, essentially.
Yeah.
That's some of the highest highs of the game that I've had, is when they haven't warned me about a fight that I'm going to have that's way worse than I could have ever imagined. But it's part of like that scramble of, okay, I got to get out of this really bad situation right now. And then somehow you turn the tables through either ingenuity, patience, or just raw tenacity that beat your way through it. Like for me, the first time I found those weird demon hands, and I was talking to you about it, and I died several times, but there was one point
I found them in the cave on my way to the Rita village. That was the first time I found them.
I'm so glad in some ways that I experienced it in such a different direction, because I don't know how to explain it. It should have been so much easier by the time I got to the one that you experienced.
Okay, listeners, I'm gonna like put a timestamp just for like tiny spoilers, and you can skip ahead just for a little bit, so we can just have a little bit of a free talk. But it's not gonna be as extensive as with the Jedi Survivor. So we're in spoiler territory, Paul. So the fight with Phantom Ganon after the whole hands thing.
I'm so glad that he drops a different, really good weapon each time you take him out. How terrifying he is when he just comes up as like a red ghost zombie.
It's horrific. This game has has that kind of manga horror style to it. In some of the designs.
Phantom Ganon, the crazy three-headed dragons, the freaking nightmare fuel that is the Rito dungeon boss. Looking like one of the characters from Subnautica with its crazy pinchers and everything.
Which, by the way, that boss fight is like, it was easy, but how epic. I tell you, it's like, I've been like, how often have I said I've been looking for a Shadow of the Colossus high? God, this game, like, really, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is Shadow of the Colossus. Like, the realization of the feelings of that idea. That boss fight gave me that, like, just the being in the in like that tornado area, like, and you like floating around, and that enemy like teleporting like through different portals, and you having to like skydive and float back in to like get him with the arrows at the right time, was like a phenomenal boss fight that trounces the having to fight the calamity the calamity Ganons from like the divine beast. And also just in dungeons, ending spoilers here, just the dungeon design in this game, Paul, I like that how visually distinct like that Wind Temple is, and I've heard all the other three are visually distinct. That's like the big thing. That's the big thing that Nintendo really took to heart with, like the big complaint for the Divine Beast for Breath of the Wild was that
essentially the same environment, with just different looks to it.
Exactly, with a different animal. One was like a bird that was floating around. The other one was an elephant. The other one was like a big turtle rock that's in the fire, and a big camel. I think it was the one that the one at the Gerudo. So it's like. And I know there's also a fifth temple that I heard it's down in the depths, and that it's terrifying. I'm really dreading that, because the depths can be a really terrifying place because it's pitch dark. I'll say that, but it's like the just every tiny detail that they could have improved with Breath of the Wild that we wouldn't think they would, they actually did. And I haven't even talked about side quests. The side quests in this game now, because I had to ask Zach about it, like in our chat. It's like, I don't remember side quests feeling as rewarding to complete in the last game, other than the ones that lead you to finding a shrine. And obviously exactly. So it's like, now you get rupees, you get like items, you can see like some changes within the world that are happening. It's like the world feels more alive now. Like they're going to Hateno Village and it becoming like a fashion town over there, and then like you're gonna be part of like a recall election. So it's like it feels more lively. It's like it actually feels like if the last game felt like vacant and like a post-apocalyptic world that's kind of like building up, this one feels like, yes, another calamity happens with the upheaval, which lifted Hyrule Castle and all the crazy stuff that is now in the sky and all that. But now it feels like there's a society that you can find around, like in stables, in the different towns, and interesting like quest lines that can lead to some interesting stories sometimes. So, and like my favorite is the fact that you can play journalist if you like get into like a journalism quest on your way to Rito Village, and you can like start investigating like sightings for Princess Zelda and like hearing interesting stuff that really sounds like her at times, or other times it doesn't. And I really can't wait to like really find out what that is, especially after the revelation that I found early after completing the 12 tiers that I unfortunately spoiled for you, because I thought the way you pursued the Master Sword quest would reveal that to you, but it turns out
let it be known that Alejandro made a vast miscalculation for the first time in his life that I will now be able to hold over him forever.
Yeah.
That he ruined the reveal of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom to me without realizing.
Yeah, it's literally, I tell you, it's like that story reveal is probably what propelled this to this kind of one of my favorite games ever. Just like how all of that came together. On top of that, because not only had that story reveal, but I had the same way that I acquired the sword like you did, and you know how that was. So that's what I was like, man, the highs that I'm feeling with this. It's like I was not expecting the sequel to a game that I scoffed at so hard over this past few years. It's like it's having me like this, to like to the point that really it's like I can't wait to like get through the rest of the news and all that and just go back and play, because obviously I'm also reviewing this game for over at Season Gaming. It's like I feel this will be one of the easiest reviews to write once I finish it, because I have to like roll credits before they accept I write any review there. But I already know what I'm gonna say about this, because I tell people this is like, if I thought Breath of the Wild was overrated because of my perspective of how I found it, I feel Tears of the Kingdom in this perspective is probably underrated this time. Like that's how strongly I feel, and it's like I can't, unless it completely craps the bed, which I tell you, I've heard people saying that. Many people thought the ending of Breath of the Wild was weak, like especially compared to how everything came together for that game. People say Tears of the Kingdom is the complete opposite. In fact, Gene Park, obviously he waxed poetic in his review, but I heard in a recent podcast appearance he said that he was not ready to give this game a 10 until he played the ending. So that's yeah. So that's why I'm like, okay.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So,
I recently just watched a video essay, actually from, I think it was Jacob Geller, and the idea was that it was games that save the best for last, where it's like, many, especially modern games, try to throw everything, the best stuff at you at the very beginning to hook people, because they
God of War 2018.
Right. Even they list God of War 2 specifically with the fight
Colossus of Rhodes.
Colossus of Rhodes. As one of the big examples, of course, Uncharted 2 having its big set piece. But then just really relishing the idea that a game that will hold back its last trump card for the very end of the game to hit anybody who's willing to push through to the end, that last big glorious moment. And like I would say that I liked the final fight for Breath of the Wild, even if it was a little bit lacking. Let me clarify. The part where it's like actual Ganon with the crazy arms was awesome. did not like the weird boar thing.
Boar
That
thing
was
at the
boring.
end. Yeah, it was just you riding
Yeah.
around and shooting with shooting
Exactly that.
the gold arrows, and then you beat him, and it was like everything's cool. Bye.
Yeah, it's
so
like, all right, we're done. And
exactly.
Then if
So
you didn't get all the memories, you didn't get the actual like result of that.
mhm.
So,
But again, because that game was not story focused at all, that kind of explains it. It's like Breath of the Wild was defined by the road to the destination, not the destination. Apparently, like now, Tears of the Kingdom is both defined by the road towards the destinations, because it feels way more engaging from moment to moment, and on top of that, and hearing that the ending's actually even cooler, especially knowing that in the last game, like doing the dungeons was to activate the with the divine beast was to activate the divine beast for the final battle. Without spoiling, just the idea of like what's happening as you complete these dungeons is conceptually even way cooler and fits with the story you can find. And I can feel like, I think you already always said, Paul, that one of the things that disappointed you about knowing how the story of Breath of the Wild was laid out was that you were actually over at thecriticalcorner.com. I have an article me, Paul, and Zach wrote together about like 2 years into Breath of the Wild, like what were our thoughts about that game, and there in particular you mentioned how you had this idea that this could be like a Fellowship of the Ring style, like you with like your companions and all that, and based on the things that you get at the end of every of every dungeon this time, it feels like you can have that eventually, like in spirit, as vague as I can be with with this thing. So especially because you already have that like companions in the dungeons, such a great addition that I wasn't expecting how cool it could be. And that was in the
so
trailer,
glad,
people.
because especially when you have Link as the only character for most of the big moments, a character who's famous for not speaking at all or showing a lot of emotion,
Yeah.
you kind of lose a lot of that big momentous feeling. So it makes so much sense that you would give him some kind of capable character that stays alongside him, gives you some kind of gameplay perk, kind of taking the place of a dungeon specific item that used to be such a big deal. Still wish we could have gotten a hook shot. That would have been really cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, the fact that you now get somebody to bounce off, like you're the straight man and they're like the excitable, interesting other character that gets to talk at you the whole time. And of course, I've only played the one, so it was Tulin, the Rito character, which, I mean, that he was in the trailer, obviously.
Yeah. And the ability Tooling gives you, game changer for traversal, I tell you. Yeah. Especially if you're in sky traveling with this game.
I will say, as much as I hate Rivali, I do sometimes miss the ability to just immediately jump super high in the air. I know you still can, but it takes resources, so I just
you have to use a Hyrule Cone to do that now. Which, to be fair with that, as long as you have the resource, you can do that all the time. Before you had the limited, and then you had to wait minutes for that thing to give you the other two. I remember that the hard way again when I told you that I put Breath of the Wild in again, just to kind of like compare and contrast. We have been gushing a lot, Paul. Let's try to bring balance to the Force a little bit. Is there anything that legit you don't like about this game? Because I think I have one big issue with this one. And
it kind of comes and goes, so you go ahead and start.
I feel control-wise, this feels more complicated than Breath of the Wild, because for some reason, I tell you, I can't shut it off. I always go D-pad up to try to change my abilities, and D-pad up is now is your resource menu now. It is like to do the ability change is now the L button or L1 or LB if you. For other console players that have an idea where the button is, because that same button when you tap it is how you use the abilities, but then holding it is how you switch around. And there's also, I don't know if you have noticed, there is a slight delay when you pick anything from those menus now that wasn't there in Breath of the Wild. Like when you switch from weapon to weapon, there's like a slight second before you go back into gameplay. I tested this back in Breath of the Wild. Everything you do in those menus from the D-pad and all that, immediate. And I could even say like maybe the way the menus looked in Breath of the Wild was cleaner. This one definitely feels bigger because there's more text. They're trying to tell you more, so it looks slightly uglier in that from that area. But that's literally the only complaint that I can think of. Do you have another one?
I
Other than story being like you have to find the memories.
Yeah.
So
I
it's hard,
don't
right?
like that when they give you a side quest, the marker is the person that gave you the side quest. You should at least give me like a circle for the region. Sometimes they do even. But most of them, like the journalist stuff, is just the lady that gave you the quest. I want to know, like, all right, which of these did I go to yet? You haven't told me. So it just leads to me jumping from one stable to the next for the journalist quest line for anybody listening.
The thing is that when you do the journalist quest, like everything you have to do, because there's always a specific journalist quest with every stable. Everything you have to do in that stable is around that stable. Like you never have to you never have to go too far off. Like it's always around that area.
I agree. I mean, like if I've already done a couple of them and I don't remember which ones I did, I just have to do trial and error to find it, because there's not like, hey, you haven't done these 3 stables yet, but you did all of these. So I have to just like show up at the stable and go, is he there? Nope. Okay, I did this one already. Time to go.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's like there's like no way to like keep track of if this is a stable that you already did a quest on unless you have a really good memory. Even though there is a quest log, like it's clearly laid out in a quest log,
but it doesn't list where each of those are. It just says like if you've already picked up. I mean, and then it's like trial and error in another way. You have to go through your completed quest to go, did I do that one? Nope. Did I do that one? Nope.
Because the quests tend to give you the name of where the quest is. So like the Snow Peak Stable or something like that. But it's like the list just keeps piling up the more quests you do, and there's many in this one.
There's so many. I have been collecting them with the full intention to just go back at some point and do a bunch of them all at once, because I'm really. Oh, here's another negative that I'll go ahead and hit. The quest line for the fairies is dumb.
It's not that bad, but
hear me out, because it led into, at one point I went down to the Faron Woods, and it went from, okay, so you have to collect this lady first that does the fiddle to do that great fairy. After that, you have to go find the Piper Kid.
Yeah.
Piper Kid is up in a tree that you find him, and then he wants you to collect 10
three honey.
No, that's a different guy. He wants you to collect 10 sunset bugs, which only get sold, or you have to like find them yourself.
Oh, I have to do that. I haven't done that one yet.
Back to him, and then he asks you to wait till night, go find this girl that he's crushing on, convince her to come out to see him, but if it's raining at night, you have to just go sleep again for the next night, which happened to me. And then when you go to her, she finally gives whatever is like the conversation that needs to happen. He finally goes back to the other place, then you have to take that, and then you have to go back to the ferry, and then you can finally get the ferry to upgrade your stuff. It's such a convoluted and frustrating process just to upgrade your gear. I don't want to, like, it's a great storyline. Why in the world is it tied to being able to upgrade your equipment in the game?
I didn't find it that bad, personally.
I think it was fine. It was just that one specific. So maybe the rest are okay, but that one just drove me up a wall for some reason because of how many things that was like, oh yeah, great, you did that thing. Now you got to go do something else before you can get to the actual part you wanted. So that was one thing.
Yeah, the first one that I ever did for that was that you had to push the cart up a hill, and
that one was easy.
And you only needed to buy the saddle, but I didn't know how to put the saddle on, and it turns out that you only have to put the saddle on like when you go pick a horse at the stable. So So that was like the only one, but that one was super easy. Then there was finding a drummer that for him to like go back to like to go back to the band, he just needs 3 honey that I already had because I hoard everything as I explore.
I actually bumped into him on accident, and that one was really easy. It's just this little kid with the flute that was the really frustrating part.
And was that kid in the flute the one that's like inside a hole that you had to like get out from a hole?
No, he's up in a tree down in the south in the far woods.
So that's the one that I have a shrine available there. Like I opened it. I haven't done that yet, but because I saw the banner, I was like, yeah, I'll go do that later. But yeah, that's the only one that I'm missing, because there was another one where they want to find someone that went down a sinkhole, and you have to get him and his cart out of the sinkhole. And the only way,
geez.
yeah, and it was so easy. It was just like lifting the, tell him I'm getting out of here. He jumps into the cart. I lifted it with Ultra Hand, dropped the thing.
And then it's it.
No, that's the thing. Like you can't lift it too high. So I lifted it high. I climbed up the sinkhole. I used the recall ability for the thing to lift up, and then use Ultra Hand and take it out. It's like just man. We haven't even talked about those abilities. Like,
nope.
Yeah, we've only mentioned Ultra Hand, which is like where you do move things around and then you fuse stuff. But the one that the Ascend ability is like so cool when like you see that you're able to do that and just like go up and like up the environment.
One slight weirdness is if we're still talking about a couple of negatives, why does it go into the loading screen for the simplest items? Even if it's like the tiniest thing that you get to go up, it'll wipe away to load you in, and then I'm like, I just went up 10 feet, guys. It's okay.
Yeah. Again, like Switch, again, like hardware limitations. Can you imagine if this had like an SSD, like on a like a PS5 or something like that? So that's what's so funny, just thinking about like this is what Nintendo was able to squeeze out of all this, and obviously some of the hardware limitations show. Visually, like it looks sharper. It definitely looks ugly in parts, but the art style really carries it for me. Are you playing it in handheld mode, or are you playing it on your TV?
Completely on my TV. I think I played for a few minutes on handheld, and it's not very fun, and comparatively, honestly. There's some things that you need to see so far in the distance, especially when you're looking around, that you basically need to look at it really closely to see the tiny low-res speck on the distance. But that's kind of a minor thing overall. I remember there was a point back in Breath of the Wild that I got really used to the handheld, and when I put it back up on my TV, I didn't like it as much. So I think it's just this weird jump between the resolutions that just makes it weird. So if I get used to it in handheld, it'll probably be fine again.
Yeah, I don't play it in handheld as much like I thought I would, but also because now this time around, compared to when I played Breath of the Wild on Switch, my second go, I didn't have a TV in my room. Now I do. So it's like, why would I play it in handheld when I have a TV there here? And that's what has been so unhealthy, because it's like this game is just such an obsession that I can't stop playing it. I'm like, crap, I need to go to bed, but I'm just like daydreaming about this. But I feel like the art style of this game like really carries a lot of water visually. This game, there's some god rays in this game, like with the sun that is like, man, it's like, I know the Switch is underpowered. This like the resolution is low, but this looks pretty to me. And I've been the one that have called the Pokemon game, the open world Pokemon games, ass in how they look. And I know our friend Zach takes issue with that, but I stand with that. Those games look like ass, especially Scarlet and Violet compared to what Nintendo did with this. I think this game exposes those games even further.
Comparatively, absolutely, because the main kind of discussion around it was, oh, it's Nintendo compared to everything else. Of course, it's going to look different. And then you have Breath of the Wild. Well, I mean, even if you compared it to Breath of the Wild, it's pretty unfortunate. But yeah, Tears of the Kingdom really blows it out of the water. Says like, yeah, Pokemon is just getting really lazy. It's not even Nintendo. It's the Pokemon.
It's Pokemon Company and Game Freak. But also because they had to like pump that game within a year. It's like Nintendo took 6 years to make this. And remember, this was originally like the early concept of this was DLC. And then they were like, we think we can make an entire game. And I will say this: as soon as you land into Hyrule the first time, don't feel weird if you feel slightly underwhelmed at the fact that, I remember this. I'm going through this. Like, yes, there's a sense of familiarity with the map, but quickly, like the more you explore, you're gonna see the way Nintendo has nip and tucked this map to reintroduce a sense of discovery, even if you have explored every inch of this map before. I tell you, just the fact that you can like be flying around on sky and like just skydive and seeing like the massive size of this and scope of this game like always in plain sight will eliminate any thought of like this is DLC, especially when you go down to the depths and you see that they made an entirely massive map. Like
the fact that it's exactly the size of the actual above ground map, and there's still it's not just like an empty space. It seems like at first it is, but then you start finding ruins,
Oh no.
and you start finding like castles and other dungeons and abandoned mining facilities and horrors beyond your comprehension.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh shoot, I am not the top of the food chain. I'm not even like a consideration to some of these creatures. And I love the feeling, because I think that's one way I started to lose steam on Breath of the Wild was when I got to the top of the food chain and when I could just wipe out anything. But as of right now, I still haven't come close to reaching that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that will hack me up and fold me
The
like a piece of paper.
Three-headed dragons, I still don't know like what is the... I mean, I sent you a clip today of like someone built Ava Max.
Destroying something.
But
it's really like, I think the only way they did that was by keeping their shield up at all times while something else did the work. So it's like, I put a little bit of hits on one of the heads and then it turned and just deleted me.
Yeah, in one hit, yeah.
One hit. And so but that honestly, that excites me even more because that means,
you have something to look forward to.
Exactly. I can grow. I haven't reached the top, even though I can walk in and just smite any Bokoblin or Bokoblin, however you pronounce it, with one hit in the best circumstances. There's so many other things that I can't even touch. And I'm like, but we'll just wait till I come back, mister. I'm coming for you. And so I put a little mark on my map and then I move on with my life.
Yeah, but before we finish like talking this, like we have to mention the Koroks. And those poor Koroks that are in like with the big backpacking, and I should have expected this, but the level of sadism that I'm seeing from like gamers in TikTok and Twitter, the thing like how they're like torturing these poor Koroks, from crucifixions to barbecues, firing the firing squad. I was crying laughing. Like
I was like, who put so much effort into finding multiple of those to bring them together and then do that to them?
No.
I think my favorite one is that early one where somebody put 20 rockets, connected it to one, and just launched them across a hill.
Yep.
Oh, it's just so good. Just the way that you are made to launch them, travel with them, do whatever you can to get them to where they need to be. I'm glad that you get 2 Koroks seeds out of it.
Yeah.
Because I was not about to go out of my way. Like this time, I felt myself go, I do not have the time to go lifting up every rock to find these. There was one point it sent me off far enough in the distance for one of those land on the weird tree thing, and then it like puts a thing off in the distance. I went, I'm not doing this. I'm going off and doing something else. So the fact that they give you the rewards to double it, and then also incorporating it with the fuse and the travel mechanic was such a good idea.
Yeah, because like as sadistic as people are being, like some people are using like the tools they're given to like expedite that process because the game just allows that to happen. It's just so funny that again it's like when you give too much power to the player, this is what happens. I mean, like my favorite, like the first creation that I saw, I thank Gene Park for that because he's the one that unearthed it from like 4chan, that they made a big giant mech with the dragon thing down there.
Yep.
So
that was one of the first things when I didn't know what was actually available to the player.
Yeah.
And I was made very aware of what is available.
And then when someone did a similar one and then it exploded. the clip that it's now the header, the face of that robot is the header of her chat. So
just when you had finally calmed down and you changed it back to a normal title with a normal picture, something else has to show up, doesn't it?
Yeah, always. I mean, like Zach no longer has to fear that I'm gonna torture him with garden shears anymore. That show's done. Chaos is done for you. So it's like
you're gonna do something.
It's always got something new that's gonna come. But it's like I tell you, it's like it's been this long since I have not turned on my PlayStation 5 or even my Xbox. It's like,
and I haven't felt like I'm missing anything either.
Me neither. I'm so thankful I was able to finish everything before this. I feel bad for Jedi Survivor in a way that a game that we both loved so much. It was our favorite game of this year, like easy for us. Got Horizoned. This game got Horizon like brutally, and even though
Jedi Survivor had come out in
March,
like, imagine like 2021. Imagine that. Game of the year easily.
Yeah, again, like the Horizon Forbidden West thing is like in a year where there was no game advancement, like game design advances and all that. It's just about executing as best as you can. Those are the kinds of years like Jedi Survivor or Horizon could have like won easy. But when you get games like this that push the envelope of what a game from game design perspective can be, not pursuing Hollywood, because that's the thing. Like I love my story games, I love God of War, I love Last of Us and all of that, but those games are like the kind of the kind of product that they're trying to push everything into more a Hollywood perspective, assimilating movies as close as it can with like production value and all of that. I feel that games like Elden Ring and Zelda better represent gaming as a medium and interact like an interactive tool of endless possibilities. And I feel that's why right now this is front runner for Game of the Year easy. If anything else comes out this year that manages to like blow it out of the water, is like on top of we already were like, man, if we love Star Wars this much, on top of already the things we enjoyed in the lead up to Star Wars, and it's ended up being better. Now it's like this to me, Zelda is like front runner, easy, easy. It's like I'm like I haven't had this smile, like like this childlike smile of just like I can't wait to play more. I can't wait to do more. Going on these tangents so often, like I spent my entire day yesterday just being at the depths, completing the Master Koga quest. So it's like it's so easy to get like funnel in a specific direction because the game is that inviting. It's just so magical, and I really hope that the people that are too hung up on like wanting a story spoon fed to them get over themselves and engage on this game
I think if they just like reevaluate the priorities, realistic expectations, where it's like, all right, like take a step back. It's not the very specific cutscenes every little bit like Skyward Sword was or anything else. Even just play the game and get to the story when you can, and you will be rewarded far more than something like Breath of the Wild was. Because just like you said, without spoiling it, despite the fact that Zelda gets launched into the void at the very start of the game and Link loses his arm, it does not play out the way Breath of the Wild did.
Which, by the way, like Anakin, like Link gets Anakin Skywalker in this game,
essentially. And of course, it's not a spoiler; it's in the trailer. But yeah, it's like there's very much two concurrent storylines that are happening. You are just finding glimpses into the second one because you're playing as Link, but there is very much a lot of stuff going on this side that you're not seeing, and what you are seeing is bat crap insane.
Yes, and it adds richness to the mythos for the Legend of Zelda, at least this interpretation of it.
And gives so much more for Zelda to do specifically. Lets her do so much more, actually interact with people. I don't think she's ever been allowed to talk to anybody but Link before.
What was she doing in Breath of the Wild? She was in the castle holding Ganon. That's all she was doing.
Yeah, exactly. Even in like Twilight Princess, she briefly speaks to Midna. Wind Waker is probably the best other example of that. Because Skyward Sword, she briefly talks to some other people, but that's about it. And then literally every other one, it's like, hey, Link, you're the one other person I'm allowed to interact with. All right, I'm captured by.
Exactly. I fell down to the earth. So
yeah, basically.
Again, it's like this feels like. I heard that the director for this one also did Skyward Sword. So this feels like. I feel Skyward Sword is a game that whatever ideas they had kind of like got away from them because of the game that they were trying to make, and it feels like we're seeing the realization of that. I love that Tears of the Kingdom to me is like both a building on everything that worked about Breath of the Wild and giving me the things I miss about Breath of the Wild. Like that story hook, like even if it's still like on me to find it, I had more motivation to actually find it than I did last time with Breath of the Wild. And the return of dungeons, like more design stuff, like just the pathway towards the Wind Temple, like that platforming challenges you're climbing up, and then like that beautiful moment of like blasting to the sky and go inside the wind tornadoes. Like inspiring awe in me that the other one never did. Even though there was like a sense of awe of seeing such a big game from Nintendo back then. But it's just like, yeah, it's like this. Finally, it's like this is feeling finally like the merging of the two worlds that Breath of the Wild didn't feel. Breath of the Wild felt like we're pivoting now hard. So, man, it's like I feel this is my favorite Zelda game, like as of right now. And I say that after I have always sung the praises of Wind Waker, but I played it last week and I tell you, it's like the charm is still there, but it didn't take much for this one to like give me that sense again. So it's like I doubt that I'm gonna like sour on this one. Like it's I find it nigh on impossible. It's like this game is just phenomenal, and I can't wait to play more after we're done with the show. And it pleases me seeing how successful it is, because more and more I feel it's again like a triumph of single player with no online elements. This is being the proof of the pudding, and also showing that there is a place for Hollywood style games that versus storytelling and all that, and games that are games. And I'm glad this is showing that there's just not one way to do a single player game, and both can be very successful. Though the success of this one is kind of insane. Let's not bury the lead anymore. Paul, press X
for some news.
Story number 1 by Jordan Midler over at VGC. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom breaks Nintendo records with 10 million sales in 3 days. The title sold 10 million units worldwide in the first 3 days following its May 12 release, the platform holder said on Wednesday. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is also the fastest selling Nintendo game for any system in Europe and in Americas. In its 7th year, Nintendo Switch momentum continues strongly as this record-breaking launch shows, said Nintendo of Europe President Stefan Boll. We're so grateful for the support of fans for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and are truly looking forward to seeing their adventures and creations as they journey into Hyrule. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom made a fast start at UK retail, comfortably achieving the biggest box launch of any game in 2023. According to figures from market research from GfK, the title sold 54% higher than Hogwarts Legacy, the best-selling game of the year so far. Hogwarts recently, last week, announced that lifetime 12 million units. That game came out in February. We're already in May. It took 3 months to do that. This is already at 10 million after 3 days. Just to put it in a bigger perspective, Cyberpunk sold 13.5 million after a week. God of War Ragnarok sold 5.1 million after a week and reached 11 million after 3 months. This is an exclusive, and it managed to make 10 million. When I watch videos of the massive lines at GameStops, at the Nintendo store, at Targets, everywhere, this game was a movement. Like, and before everyone wants to say it's like, oh yeah, Zelda's always popular, of course it was gonna be big. The best-selling Zelda game before Breath of the Wild was Twilight Princess in the Wii, 9 million total lifetime. Eventually, Breath of the Wild sold like 25 million units, like lifetime, and it was held that it was the launch game for the Switch, and actually highly coveted system. You want a game to play, you would buy that one. This is like an example of like the prestige of Breath of the Wild growing in the Steam over the 6 year, and I bet you it's like all those stupid clips we always saw on Twitter of people like doing weird crap with that game that was always gonna like pique the interest. You were saying, Paul, I think you said it in our chat, that your neighbor bought the game because he saw like the what could be possible with like the building and all of that. It's like this game is like is already Elden Ring took 3 months to reach the 12 million units sell. So the fact that, and that's a multi-platform game, so this game is massive. And there's my dog, right, dog? Oh man, I'm blown away. I was like, when I saw the number, 10 million units, Paul. 2 years for The Last of Us Part 2 to reach that. 2 years to reach 10 million. It's like when you put everything in perspective, it's like that's how massive this game is. And when you see all my TikTok all over it, it's like Nintendo couldn't have timed it perfectly. At the peak of TikTok uploading and like the quick bites and all that, they made a game perfect for that audience. And it's just gonna keep like propagating. How often are we like the 2 videos you shared before we started recording? That double mech,
like the Macross one and the crazy drone that splits, and then one hovers in the air and the
Uh-huh.
other one travels on the ground, both of which are shooting beams at enemies.
Uh-huh.
I cannot believe, like,
How quick
what I expected was that, like, first day mech where it's like kind of awkward, it's like a bunch of stuff kind of thrown together. I thought that was the extent of it, but the fact that people are getting like actual amazing articulation and everything, people who are engineering students are making actual accurate steam engines that can use the wheels and the methods, and then they're putting it in attaching it to weaponry, so it's just this stabbing machine. There's people making trucks, like actual 18-wheelers.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous what's even possible in this game. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's just insane. It's again why I feel like not only could this be like, because I will have to marinate after finish it, that is this my favorite game ever. You could make the argument, is this the greatest game ever made? Like, with the things that are happening, is like, I feel someone could make that argument, and it would be hard to, because again, a feat, what all this game allows you to do, that is legit. This is not the game, this is literally not the game not working as intended. This was the intention. And this 10 million is just the beginning. It's like, man, it's like so many Switches, like even like, the Switch has been like on a downward trajectory, like recently, like with sales, of course, it's in the 7th year. At this point, everyone has been just clamoring for a new one. But man, it's like I'm just again astounded. It's like I feel this is well deserved. Like this is a well deserved win. Like for a company that I've always talked about. It's like sometimes like I love Nintendo a lot for like what they've given me over the years and my love for them as a child. And the asinine decisions have always kind of like been like hair pulling. But and I mean, this is the company that will sue you to death and then will like get royalties from your earnings for a lifetime, like what happened to that hacker. But when it comes to like their game designers, and I feel like, yeah, it's like this 10 million is not just some franchise hype. This is both like on Nintendo goodwill that they've earned through this entire generation, on top of like the Mario movie being so hugely successful, so they finally like broke to the mainstream. But this is just a start for what will be like a very fruitful like seller for the rest of this year, because man, those betas, I tell you, it's like if everyone sees that kind of crap, again, it's like there's something about the childlike wonder of like being given the tools to express yourself like this game does. That will always hold more power, no matter what, than a Hollywood caliber story. Not to me, again, that's not bad, but it's like this is the power of video games. So massive success, like congratulations Nintendo for that. It's like that's crazy. So over on the other side of the pond, Paul, after 84 years, it's finally happened. Story number 2, also by Jordan Midler. Sony's PlayStation Showcase returns next Wednesday. So it will feature a wealth of new games, and new IP are headed to PS5 and PSVR 2. The show will run a bit over an hour, focusing on set systems in development from top studios from around the world. Expect a glimpse at several new creations from PlayStation Studios, as well as spellbinding games from our third-party partners and indie creators, according to PlayStation. Much of PlayStation's 2023 lineup is unknown, with only Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on Sony's roster. It's likely that Wednesday's show will reveal more of that PlayStation plans to release later this year. And this PlayStation Showcase kicks off several weeks of major video game showcases, which are taking place in the absence of the cancelled E3 2023 show. Ever since the last time, Paul, you were sheltered in place and you made it out of shelter after Hurricane Ida, and you beeline from whatever you were sheltered buying groceries and we did our reacts to whatever Sony had at that time. That's how long it's been since they had a big showcase. They had State of Plays. We reacted to 3 of them last year. 2 out of those 3 ones actually pretty good. The one that had Valkyrie Elysium and Diafield Chronicles at the beginning and Exo Primal, that one was it was in Japanese crap, but it was like the one that gave us Final Fantasy 16, Callisto Protocol, Resident Evil 4, that one's a good one. The one that gave us Stellar Blade, your combust like awkwardness. The Rise of the Ronin game, and also the God of War Ragnarok story trailer that sold us that game was gonna be like a legit sequel. That was a State of Play from September. then we got the State of Play earlier this year that was focused on Suicide Squad, and we were like, what the hell was this? There was not much here. It kind of like confirms my fears. The years that they're going to have a showcase, State of Plays are not going to be good, and this confirms it, but it's finally time. It's crazy that they went 2 years. We heard rumors last year that we were supposed to get one, but the stupid deal, the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal, like forced them to like cancel the showcase to a pure week when they were making the appeal for why that deal was bad. And obviously that deal got blocked by the CMA over in UK, but the EU approved it. We're not gonna have to like, it's like that's a big win for them, but they still have to like, they have a massive roadblock ahead to reverse course with the UK and the US FTC for that to happen, so we don't have to talk about that deal anymore. I don't even care. It's like, it's such an oxygen sucking, but finally us that are PlayStation fans, that I keep telling you, it's like, it feels bad that it never feels like we have a cadence on when we're gonna be talked to about what are the big games we're excited for the platform other than third-party games. You gonna watch this?
If I am not in the middle, what time is it?
So it's gonna broadcast live at 1 p.m. Pacific
1
time.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Probably not. Oh, okay.
Wednesday.
Oh yeah,
Wednesday.
I'm looking at this Xbox
Yeah.
showcase.
Yeah.
Wednesday definitely not, because I'm going to be working,
Mm-hmm.
and that is my busiest day of the week. So I'm going to catch up.
Yeah, because if they will start airing at your 4 p.m. What? If a time is Pacific time, what time is it for you? Like, I'm trying to because I'm 1 hour ahead from
If
Pacific
it's
time.
Eastern time, then where? Wait, hang on. I'm trying to find it. It's blocked by the video. 1 p.m. Pacific time. So 2, 3, 4 p.m. I believe.
Oh, okay, so you're
right.
You're not off of work yet.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'll be still working, but I'll at least know what's coming out. I just won't be able to react to it live or anything. And then later on, after I'm done, I'll go back and go, all right, what videos do I need to watch? Trailers do I need to watch? What happened?
Should we do what we did that one time with the Nintendo Direct, that we did a live reacts to it? Well, it wasn't a live reacts to it. It was a reacts to it. I had already seen it, but you didn't. So, but we still recorded our reactions. Could we do that?
Right. We might be able to, in theory. We'll talk about it, because maybe we can like shift up our recording day to kind of do that instead.
We could do like an early podcast, just focus on that. So
that's what I'm thinking.
Because I might do a reacts with Sebastian. He asked me the last time I was guesting on his show, we were talking about this was a rumor showcase if we were gonna do that, so I might do it with him, like a live reaction. But a recording, we could push it up, so you react to the announcements that happened then. So, but yeah, finally, it's like, it feels good, because it's like, again, I love PlayStation. That's always my main. Like, yeah, right now I'm on Switch land thanks to Zelda, and I'm gonna be like neglecting my PlayStation for a little longer. But I mean, Final Fantasy's next month, so that neglect's not gonna come to, like, it's not gonna last too long. But again, it's like, I just hope that Sony remembers is, I don't take us for granted. Make us feel excited about your machine, like, because eventually, like, the inertia of how it just is selling stratospherically is just gonna run out. So yeah, make us more excited about your system right now at a time when your competitor over on Xbox is like stumbling so darn hard.
Oh yeah.
So
this is the time for you to just hit them with that quick 1-2 as they're off balance.
No, and to be fair to them, they are actually doing that. It's rare to me. It's like, it's so weird. I'm so used to PlayStation reacting to Xbox. So it's like Xbox always goes first, and then they would have something like back in 2020, we saw the first third-party showcase for Xbox that we were like, that didn't look next gen that much. That had Scorn and the Assassin's Creed Valhalla reveal that looked like everyone was like an Al Qaeda bunker because everyone was talking through webcams, so it was not produced. And then we got the PlayStation showcase, the one that revealed the console. That was super well produced. That came after, and that was kind of like that was a nice counteract to like the way Microsoft kind of fumbled it with the third party reveals initially, and back in the day, Microsoft would always go first at E3, and then Sony would always have the last laugh. This is one of the first times where I feel this is Sony being like, you know what, we have stuff, we're gonna go first. And not only that, we're gonna go 2 weeks early before the Xbox show, before Summer Game Fest. So they're coming in and they're like just how they kneecapped Keighley last year with just a state of play. They're now coming with showcasing and kneecapping him. So and remember what I told you, is like when everything was said and done, I thought that state of play was like it had packaged in its 30 minutes. Probably the more excited announcements of everyone else like afterwards. So we'll see. Like I'm just glad it's finally happened. Finally, Sony's gonna talk after 2 years. So
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I am so glad, so relieved, and hopefully this means we're gonna get more. Let's see, Spider-Man 2 gameplay.
Yeah.
Obviously,
we gotta get more. We gotta get the gameplay and a solid release date. We already know the rumors for that it might come out in September. So thanks to Tony Todd.
Final Fantasy 16 trailer. That's gonna like maybe just like
a reminder. Yeah, just a reminder.
Yeah. Because that's what they did with Zelda, where it was like, all right, we did our 10-minute gameplay thing, and then they dropped the final big
trailer,
hype trailer before it actually came out. So I think that's going to be the same thing with this. Besides that, it's, I don't know, third-party stuff. Anything you could think of?
A game that got revealed today may have like a gameplay showcase there, maybe, because it's a fighting game and Sony owns Evo.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Ooh, if we could get a release date for Tekken 8, that would be very nice. Because we're waiting on that. Yeah,
we already have two big players for fighting games this year already from like long-running franchises.
They're 3. Well, okay, so 2
official that are releasing.
Yeah. Because Mortal Kombat 1 just got announced. So
that's the final story.
That's whatever that is. That would get to that in a second. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think there's going to be plenty of interesting stuff going on. There's some people talked about potential Ghost of Tsushima sequel.
They're the big one. They're the last big sequel for like one of the franchises that Sony released late on the PS4 lifecycle that still doesn't have a sequel announced, because God of War already had God of War Ragnarok, Horizon already had Horizon Forbidden West, Ratchet and Clank got Rift Apart, which available now on PS Extra, people. I tell you, real excellent game. If you're paying $15 a month, and then Ghost of Tsushima is like the only one that doesn't have a sequel yet. So it's time for them to like announce. So Days Gone, obviously that's dead, but Sony Bend is working on a new IP, and probably the biggest like fear for everyone that's in the PlayStation ecosystem. All their rumored live service games that they've been working on, is this finally the time when they start unveiling them? Because it
would be the time for it.
And to me, it's like the timing. I said it in our chat with our buddy Sebastian. It's like the timing of this showcase coming out now, and if that's when they start revealing the live service games at a time where their big major competitor just proved that a single player game can sell 10 million copies.
It would be just tone deaf of Sony to do something exactly like that.
Yeah.
However, I really hope that they're smart enough to really focus on what they've got actually in the chamber.
I want to still believe Herman Holtz, the president of Sony Worldwide Studios, when he says that yes, we're gonna dip our toes in live service, but we're still gonna be doing the games that made us, like the games that we're known of. And I hope this showcase is a healthy balance. Obviously, already I'm dreading the fact that they already mentioned PSVR 2, so we know there's gonna be like a tiny block of that showcase that is gonna be of complete unimportance to us. So, but I just want like a healthy balance, and maybe prove me that you can do a live service, like maybe make an interesting pitch for a live service game. Who knows? But the thing is that we already know that gamers are speaking with their wallets. They want to spend money on games that can be once and dones. Look like that. They should watch the success of Zelda and just get that reinforcement, especially how big single player games have just been in general. I mean, they have God of War Ragnarok. Maybe the sales are not going to be as impressive anymore as Zelda doing basically just 1 million less in 3 days than what they did in 3 months. But that's still impressive for an exclusive. Like not taking that away. Yeah, obviously, their games are also more expensive. Like because they push graphical fidelity and all that. So maybe we'll see. It's like I'm just excited they're finally talking, because the thing is that now there's bigger expectations, more expectations, and there is a rumor, Paul, that Metal Gear might be there.
That's right, because Kojima has been
Yeah.
doing all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, so Metal Gear may be there, like the long rumored Metal Gear remake may be there. So we'll see.
Yeah, because I mean, there's been more rumblings recently about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from people that I trust that got Silent Hill 2 right, and we eventually got that. So, and hey, Jeff Grubb was the one that teased this showcase back in February after the State of Play. It turned out true. So again, he failed us on Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, but he gets it right more often than not when it comes to like predicting showcases. Hey, hats off to the poor man. Even though he had to cut his hair because he predicted Metroid Prime Remastered for so long, and they announced it after he cut his hair. So, and as a shadow drop, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful time when he was like, "Man, a shadow drop feels like a bigger F you."
Beautiful timing.
Yeah, but hey, finally, next week. Can't believe that it's finally here. So, story number 3. A story by Tom Ivan, also from BGC. Star Wars Jedi Survivor topped US software sales in April, while Switch console sales were significantly boosted by the new Zelda OLED model. EA's action-adventure game came in at number 1 on the monthly chart based on just 2 days of sales, with the title releasing on April 28th and market research firm Circanas, formerly known as the NPD Group, reporting period ending the following day. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is now the 4th best-selling game of 2023 year-to-date, behind only Resident Evil 4, Modern Warfare 2, and frontrunner Hogwarts Legacy. It's obvious when this story came out, because now we know that the frontrunner is Zelda. So this is now the 5th best-selling game of the year. 7 of the month's top 15 best-selling games were new releases, with Dead Island 2 debuting at number 2 and ranking 6 in year-to-date dollar sales.
Man, I forgot Dead Island 2 came out.
Yeah, that was just a week before, but it was good. That's definitely keep hearing. It's
everybody
like
said.
I can't wait for a sale. I can't wait for us to like do our arrangement for a sale, because I heard some good things.
I can wait.
That's why I say a sale. We can wait for a sale.
I don't even really feel much motivation unless it drops to like $20. I don't want to play that game. But
I've been wanting it because I've been hearing from people that I trust that is like, it was shockingly good, like for what it shouldn't have been, because it was a 9-year development game that turned out better than everyone was expecting. PGA Tour charted at number 7, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection at number 8, Minecraft Legends at number 11, which that was also on Game Pass, so the fact that it even ranked in the top 20 is kind of impressive. Final Fantasy 1-6 bundle, the $75 bundle, at number 14, and Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp came in at number 15. PS5 was the best-selling console in dollar sales in April, while Nintendo Switch led the market in units sold, with the launch of the Zelda Switch OLED model having a huge impact, according to Circana analyst Matt Piscatella. I sent you the video of everyone being like, I don't want to do it, girl. Like the TikTok of someone being like, I don't want to do it, and I ended up doing it with people buying the Zelda OLED Switch. So doesn't surprise me. Yeah, and Sony's console is the best-selling system in both units and dollars generated year to date. So again, the PS5 is still selling crazy. Star Wars being number 1, I'm not too surprised. It's Star Wars. And technical issues aside at launch, it was a fantastic game. Again, it's like, now it's our number 2 because of the proximity to with the thing that it came out. But I'm going to try real hard to always like champion Star Wars. Like, I'm going to be championing hard for this year, especially because it has the chance that it may be lost in the limelight. Like, especially if other bigger stuff ends up being as big, if not bigger, like critical successes and all that. I feel Star Wars Jedi Survivor was a really, really great game. So, and I'm glad it got the sales. And you imagine being number 1 just be 2 days in the market. How much bigger? I bet this could be number 2 for this month. Like at Zelda. So.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Congrats. And the game's still being patched. There was a new patch that came out. Like, it's still further stabilizing it. After I'm done with Zelda, I want to like dip my toes to the New Game Plus, because I remember I didn't try it. And I want to keep testing the performance. I gave that game a 9.5, and I still stand by that even with the performance issues. So
yeah.
Story number 4, and it has 2 parts to it. We haven't talked about our buddies over at Ubisoft, Paul. So for a little bit, they've been like quiet.
Is it time?
Yeah. So. Story by Tom Ivan from BGC. Ubisoft plans to increase the number of Assassin's Creed developers by 40%. The company has at least 6 new entries in the long-running series in development. As part of our progressive reallocation of resources, we notably plan to increase the number of talents working on the Assassin's Creed brand by 40% over the coming years, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot said on Tuesday. The next entry in the long-running series will be Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is set for release during Ubisoft's current fiscal year ending on March 31st, 2024. And an update to that story, during the company's earnings call, Chief Financial Officer Frederic Dugat said around 2,000 developers are currently working on Assassin's Creed, out of a total workforce of about 20,000. The number is therefore expected to rise to around 2,800 over the coming years, with the increased headcount achieved by reallocating people from other franchises, according to Guillemot. And just an addendum to that story. Assassin's Creed Mirage will be released in October, it's claimed. After reportedly being delayed at least twice, the game is officially coming this year. That's according to Assassin's Creed data miner and serial leaker Jonathan, with an 0 in the O, who discussed the alleged release date in a YouTube video this week. While he claimed the release date is currently fixed internally, he suggested it could get shifted by a few weeks, although no later than November, if it clashes with the launch of another major game which has yet to be announced. That reported targeted date is October 12, 2023. So, Ubisoft, a company in dire financial straits, what are they doing? Doubling down on the thing that is working for them. And I find that a little sad. A little bit. That is like, they are doing so bad, like everywhere else. Like, I mean, Skull and Bones still not out. They canceled so much that the only way that they can feel afloat is that they're not just going to become the Assassin's Creed studio. And obviously, I've said my piece with Valhalla. I like that game. Yeah. Obviously, and I mean, I spent 123 hours of it. The first 123 hours I spent with it, I loved. The other 37 I spent on the 3 DLCs. I didn't. So. Like all the Druids and Paris and Down of Ragnarok, but I like the idea of Mirage as the smaller scale, like going back to the roots. That's been the thing that excites me. The thing is that we still haven't seen the damn game. A game that was originally gonna be Valhalla DLC, that they ended up just making its own game. Ubisoft, they were gonna be at E3. Before they dropped, and then E3 got canceled, but Summer Game Fest scooped them up, and they're gonna be showcasing there. I hope at least we get to see it. And right now it's like, what's coming after October? Can you think of anything?
Nope, unless any of the stuff that we've already talked about ends up getting a release date for after those times.
Yeah. I feel October, if it launches in October, like both Valhalla, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey before it, I wouldn't mind like a smaller Assassin's Creed, kind of like being a junk food as we wait for other stuff around that time. I feel that would be like, especially if it turns out to be what I want out of it. But I just hope that they finally date other stuff. Like, we still have to find out when Avatar is coming out, which was supposed to come out last November. And that's still kind of like MIA. X Defiant, which big surprise success for them actually, like in the beta, in the closed beta.
Shocked that it ended up performing as well as it did, but I think one of the phrases that I told you was like, "Oh, of course it looks like it really hit the right direction because it's catering exactly to all of the pros who are pissed off at Modern Warfare 2 right now, essentially."
I mean, we're seeing that game like just not being like charting. Like you expect that game to usually chart. In fact, like, let me just go back to just out of curiosity, where was Modern Warfare 2? So Modern Warfare 2 dropped at 5. Usually Call of Duty games were always like in the top spot, like even months afterwards. Like, this Modern Warfare is like still selling, but it's like it's in a definite downward trend. So X Defiant, I mean, it's like if Call of Duty can have competition, if X Defiant, which was a stupid idea with a stupid name, is doing the right things, and it has a Call of Duty developer making that game. So of course they had the secret sauce, but yeah, we'll see. It's like, I want Ubisoft to show me. It's like, this is sad because now we know it's like the only thing I can expect from them is just Ubisoft and another Far Cry eventually. Splinter Cell, I know they announced a remake with the Snowdrop engine that they powered the Division, but it's like, now when is that coming out if the focus is now on Assassin's Creed because they're just in such dire straits. But if Mirage is good,
I don't have anything to add with this. It's like they they have 20,000 employees. They have 2,000 working on Assassin's Creed. There are 6 planned games,
yeah,
and they're only planning on expanding it to 2,800,
yeah.
not adding 2,800.
Uh-huh.
What else are they spending these people's time on?
Right. They're such a massive developer. Imagine how much overhead they have. Like across many studios.
So much.
Yeah.
I think, what was it, that giant pie chart we had?
Yeah.
Of all of the companies that Ubisoft owns? There's
like Ubisoft
three
Paris.
of them?
Yeah, like 50 of them. That was like Ubisoft and the city. So
what are they spending? Is it all on... It's all on maintenance for the Division 2, I tell you.
I mean, they still had the Division Heartland still to launch. So it's like,
yep, they have that. They have the X Defiant. They have Skull and Bones.
The Skull and Bones' perpetual existence continues to baffle me. Like, why didn't they just cut loose?
They just keep adding 3,000 more people each month to that process to get it to work.
And remember, they're not even a highly valuable company either. Like, their valuation is like $5 billion for that many people. Is like, that's insane. It's like, I would expect that from like an Activision having that many people because of their high valuation that they have, but it's like that just seems irresponsible to me, having that much. And the output that they've had is like, I'm really thinking about it. It's like, did they really, the last big game they released was Super Mario, the Mario Rabbids game for Switch, Sparks of Hope, which didn't sell well, sadly, for them, even though it was actually good for the people that played it. And then I think Far Cry 6 was like back in 2021, and that even was a delayed game. So it's they are in dire straits. They really are, and it makes me sad that that's how they're doubling down their time, even as a big Assassin's Creed fan. But
yeah.
But again, it's because remember, it was like Assassin's Creed Infinity, their live service project that's gonna be a hub that houses all the Assassin's Creed together. So it's like, I hope they just show something that then we can be like, okay, they're cooking. So far, we're not getting that from them, and that's so sad. They used to be my favorite of the three. Right now, I can't believe from the third parties, EA is the one that I'm championing the most. How did that happen? Crazy. Thank you, Respawn. Final story. Mortal Kombat 1 announced for September release date with first trailer. A console beta for their series reboot will be available in August. Following plenty of teasing and several leaks in recent weeks, the next entry is in the long-running fighting game series was officially revealed on Thursday. The debut trailer for the game confirms that it will be released on September 19, 2023. The NetherRealm-developed title will be available for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam and Epic Games Store. Warner said the game will introduce a reborn Mortal Kombat universe that has been created by the fire god Liu Kang, featuring reimagined versions of iconic characters as they've never been seen before. Its story mode promises an immersive cinematic narrative featuring unexpected twists on classic rivalries and original backstories for a wide-ranging cast of legendary fighters, including Liu Kang, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Raiden, Kung Lao, Kitana, Mileena, Shang Tsung, Johnny Cage, and many others. Mortal Kombat 1 will also feature cameo fighters, a unique roster of partner characters that can assist during matches, creating expanded gameplay possibilities for players. So straight out of Marvel vs. Capcom. So, Fire God Liu Kang is like the result of the end of Mortal Kombat 11. Just as kind of like as an example of that, it's like Mortal Kombat 11 was the conclusion of 11 entries worth of stories, and including the sort of like changed timeline that happened with Mortal Kombat 9 in 2011 and all of that. And this god is named Chronica, which was like trying to set like the timeline right, and then like past versions of old characters coming to the present to try to fix things, and then when Chronica gets killed, like Liu Kang becomes kind of like the replacement god, and that's kind of like where they rebooted. He reimagined everything to start anew, and that's kind of like where this spiritual reboot is still a sequel to what came before. So it's kind of cool that it's like
continues the crazy events of that.
Yeah,
it's kind of like for all of my anime fans, when JoJo's Bizarre Adventure reset everything after part 6 into part 7 to be a weird Hidalgo horse race across America instead of modern Florida. It basically, it's still continuing everything. A lot of the stuff carries over, but it's all like sort
fresh,
of a jumping on
a
point.
jumping on point, which is I think that's a good idea. Like the story they told, like I keep saying, is like I feel from any fighting game that exists, no one does story modes better than NetherRealm. Their Mortal Kombat games and Injustice games. It's like their stories are so cool that you can even look just at cutscenes in YouTube and they really tell a really cool story.
They tell like an actual cool cohesive stuff. I mean, Mortal Kombat, I think I watched the cutscenes for 10 and 11 specifically. Yeah. And I still regret not finishing 11's cutscenes because there was some really cool, crazy stuff going on.
Mortal Kombat 11 was the Avengers Endgame of Mortal Kombat. That's how it felt. Like, it really felt like that. It was like, I'm not a big fighting game fan. Like, I'm not one that's gonna go online. I'm not gonna be the one that's like plays it like competitively or things like that. But I do like having a fighting game to like play when I have people coming over. That I think that's kind of fun. And by the way, just an addition to that, this is all Mortal Kombat 1 pre-orders will grant players Shang Tsung as an in-game playable character, and players who pre-order for PS5 or Xbox Series X and S will receive access to a Mortal Kombat 1 beta in August. In an FAQ, Warner said it plans to add crossplay and cross-progression support post-launch, and that the game will have rollback netcode to support online play. So, for the people that want to play this online, like having rollback netcode, I think that's something good.
It's huge, yeah. I watched, of course, Maximilian Dude had to explain it to me as a pleb who doesn't understand it, and why that's such a big deal, and I will not waste anybody's time trying to explain it.
Yeah, it just makes
basically it's good.
Yeah, rollback netcode basically makes the latency in fighting an online player feel more precise as far as I understand. So
it makes it much more accessible to you playing with somebody across the entire world. So it really brings it together, as opposed to if you don't have anybody in your region, you're screwed. It just makes it so much easier, because fighting games really surviving off of an online multiplayer presence at times can really struggle, because they have maybe 500 to 2,000 people playing them, which is normal. It's just difficult for a lot of people to find someone to play with. So this has been slowly fixing a lot of that. There was something else that you said I wanted to talk about, but I'm completely forgetting.
Yeah, and just real quick with like the cameo fighters, which is like with cameo with a K. Apparently the rumor is that those cameo fighters is how they're gonna introduce like the wacky like licensed characters, and rumors are that two of them are gonna be Peacemaker and Homelander.
I did hear about that as well. I didn't know that they were gonna be the cameo characters. Personally, I don't like assists in fighting games, so I'm not huge on that, but I'll get to my other topic actually in a second. Basically, I feel like the assist stuff, like for example of like Dragon Ball Fighters, kind of ruined that game, because while it allowed you to do a lot more, it completely widened the gap between people who could understand the core game and people who could understand the core game plus the assists. Was like night and day.
Yeah, it's like I feel it's like if you do assist characters to like make this a more competitive game, because it's like it appeals more towards that higher tier level of player, that if you don't know how to like chain, like back in the day, like you change your Wolverines with your Magnetos and all that, like doing the crazy combos, and that's what the fighting community likes. And again, that's not for me. I'm not one that's gonna play as I just get destroyed by people that are true fighting game community people. I play these games for their story modes, weirdly enough, because I know that they're like legit, but I usually wait for a sale for those. I would say the trailer, really pretty. The fatalities at the end, real gory. I thought Mortal Kombat 11 had reached a new peak with fatalities, and they proved me wrong. So,
I mean, they did at the time, and this one is going to continue doing a lot of really crazy stuff. And the crazy part is it's still only cinematics for that, so we'll see what it's even worse in the gameplay. And this is where I was going to get into my other topic. Maybe it's a hot take, but I saw so many people responding in the same way that I feel a little validated in it, and is that Mortal Kombat has lost itself with its too much focus on blood and gore. Let me
no, it is
clarify that.
No, it is,
because it used to be like the over the top silly, like Scorpion would turn somebody into a white skeleton, and that was the fatality, or it was just like a quick like silly gouts of smoothie blood. And I've recently read that they made some of the developers look at actual like
tortures
or dismemberment and stuff and tortures to get it right. And I'm sitting here like, guys, I think we crossed a line if we're forcing people to look at actual horrific events and then recreate it in a video game. I think there's like some kind of event horizon that needs to be kind of, hey guys, maybe we should stop doing that. And it's no longer like, ooh, Paul's gonna be the Puritan guy again talking about that. But like, I'm legit seeing so many people saying like, I'm checking out of this because I just can't handle that.
Yeah, it's like it's getting when you get too realistic and it gets that bloody at a certain point, that you will start losing some people that may have like a certain threshold. I don't disagree with that. One of the reasons I enjoy playing the story modes is that is not there. It's like the crazy fatalities are just like when you're playing the game outside and all that, and the story modes are like devoid of that, thankfully. But it's like at a certain when you get so graphically intensive, like they keep going. It's like because the Mortal Kombat 9 is like the art style like was still campy enough that the fatalities were still funny even though it was still bloody. Then Mortal Kombat X was the first one that I was like, ooh, okay. It's like, oh, is Cassandra Cage like destroying the testicles of someone, and they're exploding and all that. So it's like at a certain point, it's just that they push the envelope. Some people will have their breaking point, and me knowing you, I think you've probably reached that point. It's like it's just too bloody. Like it's just
the Mortal Kombat 2 traumatized me as a kid from an
it did
arcade.
me too. No.
I never bought the game. I never had an interest in buying them. Actually, that's not true. I almost bought Mortal Kombat 10 or 11.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that. Like Mortal Kombat Mortal Kombat 3 on SNES. Like we had that game. There was a fatality by Caval that literally scared me like speechless. Like it left me pale. I couldn't eat. And I remember I went to eat after I saw that fatality, and like my mom was like scared that I got like traumatized by it. So it's like obviously I shouldn't have been a 5-year-old playing Mortal Kombat, but it's like those games have that. And obviously then I played the later ones, and it's like I'm more grown adult. I can like handle this, and I still, like I said, like in the story modes, I feel like the violence is like dialed up just enough that it's like I can tolerate this. It's like it's kind of like when we were getting to God of War 3 territory, that it was like so gory that obviously the 2018 and Ragnarok dialed that back because I feel that the more like you can get away with more crazy violence if you were a little bit more stylized and more cartoony, like more anime. The moment you start getting too photorealistic, and again, like that trailer apparently was in game. Like that's how the game's gonna look in game.
Jeez.
So
well,
especially near the end, like in the final parts, like I could see that early on. It's like, of course, this is CG, but yeah, it
makes sense that it's in engine though. That actually reminds me. The other thing I was gonna mention is that there's no mention of last gen stuff. So we are leaving that fully behind, and yet the freaking Switch is there.
Yeah.
I think somebody said it's like, man, the fact that they're very specifically not mentioning the PS4, the Xbox One, means that the Switch version is going to either be cloud or a walking grenade.
Yeah. Hey, to be fair, they made Mortal Kombat 11 work. They had to downgrade the textures a lot, but
it's true.
If frame rate worked, like they made the gameplay smooth on the Switch. It would crash sometimes, but it's like they made it work, so they're gonna keep attempting it. So this is one that I really want to play the story eventually. Like those are always fun. Those are always a fun time. Anything else, like I agree with you. It's like, yeah, it's like this is the kind of game I would never play in the living room to show the fatalities. One time, my parents were like, my dad was like, "Show me the fatalities in Mortal Kombat 11." And I was like, "Okay." And then we looked at videos. We only lasted a minute.
Yep.
So.
I watched a few of them. I think once again, Maximilian Dude had like a rate the fatality, and I think he specifically picked either like Kitana or somebody with the bug lady with the blue blood, so he wouldn't get demonetized. And even then, I was like, "Ooh, if any of this was any other character, it would mess me up so bad." Because there's a certain point my brain cannot tell the difference, and I'm watching somebody get murdered right now, and it just upsets the crap out of me.
Yeah, literally. No, and again, it's like if they keep going this realistic route, that's just gonna be they should. This is not just like, oh yeah, you're just too Puritan and all that. It's like it looks really violent now. It does.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm glad their story modes, they know how to hold off a little bit. They're at least like realistically, because they have a story to tell. So it's just outside that. In fact, like this, I remember the stories from 9, 10, 11 are all great. I tell you, like, they're all really great. 9 gameplay wise, like it could get too hard sometimes, but I really love those stories. So
yeah, I think I remember really liking 9.
yeah, it's and the PS3 version of that one had Kratos. I remember. So
oh, good times.
yeah, that game launched literally the same week as the PlayStation Network outage. So everyone that wanted to play Mortal Kombat Online on PS3 with Kratos couldn't do it for like a month. So the timing was bad for that one. But yeah, Mortal Kombat 1 announced. Glad it got announced and got a release date 4 months after. It feels nice. It's like small lead times, less hype cycles, less disappointment. And unless you're Tears of the Kingdom, the 6-year wait was worth it. So, and with that, we end the news for this week's episode, Paul. Read me all the actually quite big list for the last week of May. So
yes, indeed. All right.
Game releases for the week of May 21st to May 27th. Take it away.
We have Inkbound on PC for May 22nd. After Us on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC. X and S and PC on May 23rd. Amnesia: The Bunker, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on May 23rd. Red and Fred, PC on May 23rd. I love the silliest titles on here. Convergence,
another League of Legends game.
I don't even remember what kind of game this was. For PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on May 23rd.
This is the 2D action platformer.
I don't even remember that they were doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Farming Simulator 23 on Switch, iOS, and Android on May 23rd. Miasma Chronicles on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC on May 23rd. Planet of Lana, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One. Oh, I had a brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
The PC on May 23rd. Star Trek Resurgence, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC.
Telltale style. Telltale style Star Trek game. Even though it's not a Telltale game, but it has Telltale developers.
Yes, and Hello Neighbor, Search and Rescue on PlayStation VR 2, PlayStation VR on May 25th, Maquette on Switch, May 25th.
That's the game that was given to us for PS Plus early on.
I remember it very well. For some reason, it will not leave my head, even though I did not like the way it ended. The Case of the Golden Idol on Switch, May 25th. That just sounds like an Indiana Jones game. Then, lastly, The Lord of the Rings Gollum on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC on May 25th.
Yeah, and that game, if you're playing on PC, if you want to play it with full ray tracing and all that, you will need a 4090 for some reason. So, Lord of the Rings Gollum is basically taking the spot of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League as the licensed game that was coming like in that in-between period between Zelda and Diablo and all of that. I can't wait to see how that game reviews. I can't wait.
I almost really want it to be like a secret masterpiece.
Yeah.
I want it to somehow blow me away where everybody playing it goes in and goes, this is going to freaking suck. I'm going to make fun of it. And then comes out of it going, bro, I felt things. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Can you imagine if that happens and then we'll have to buy it?
Yeah, how quickly I would change my tone. I would be like, that means it has to be good if people are actually going to eat crow on that. I want to be wrong so badly, but I know it's going to be a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it's like I still can't believe that that's like from all kinds of games that we could have gotten from Lord of the Rings, that's the one. So, but hey, maybe it can be surprising. So I never want to. It's just so funny, especially when that I mentioned to you before we started recording that skill up. This week's the skill of this week in video games that he does when he mentioned that the PC version needed a 4090, he was like, we need a 4090 for this. They showed the game. He's like, what the hell's happening to PC ports? But that's this week's show, Paul. So more Zelda ahead of us after I go eat something. So
y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I post lately screenshots and videos of just me playing Legend of Zelda, I would say things that I was breaking about the game. Actually, last story, because I said I would at the start of this, there was one example. You remember there's a lady that makes stuffed seals and puts them in the back of a horse in Tears of the Kingdom. Essentially, you're supposed to, like, you walk up to her, you talk to her, your act of talking to her makes her throw them out, and you have to get them back into the the carriage. I was doing that using recall, Ultra Hand, and getting them all in, and I turn around and I see that the carriage has glitched out,
Really?
flipped itself on top of the horse, so I could not get
The clip.
for putting the seals into the carriage, because you can't grab the carriage either. You could just kind of like, I eventually got it to fall on its side.
You couldn't Ultra Hand it?
No, you couldn't do anything to it. It was supposed to sit there, and it's only the seals that are supposed to fall out. But the whole thing just flipped itself and freaked out on me. And I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
I broke the game. The one that everybody talks about not being able to break. So yeah. That was one thing I wanted to mention. Anyway, yeah, it's just me doing crazy nonsense, building things and potentially dying and all of that. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, you can find me at a_Segovia on Twitter, Alejandro Segovia 93 on Instagram, and my written content currently at seasongaming.com, where whenever I'm done with Zelda, I'm going to be reviewing it. But my gushing praise should give you an idea of what I'm going to review that game on. So it's been fun, Paul. Like, can't wait to talk about PlayStation Nation next week, finally, and for us to finally get into the summer of releases. When do you go? Like, when do you go on your trip?
2 weeks from now. Yeah, so the 28th, 29th, something.
Perfect.
Like that.
So thank you, Sony, for putting a showcase right before he leaves. So you're not gonna have to the showcase like halfway through. So
no, I am good for this one at least. But then once that happens, I'm gonna be in Nashville, Tennessee for like a whole week until the 2nd.
Okay. And with that, we end the show today. Thank you so much for everyone that tunes in and listens to us or watches the videos. We keep seeing growth, especially in the audio side. We thank you all so much for that. And can't wait to just get to even bigger meat. But until then, more Zelda time for me. And hope everyone's also playing Zelda and enjoying Zelda, or many of the other litany of games that are coming out this summer, because we're not going to have a summer as cool as this ever. Again.
We are going to be talking about this. You remember back in my day in 2023 when everything cool came out and then the world ended.
Yeah.
That's going to be it.
Yes. Oh man, especially Diablo soon, Final Fantasy 16 then, and then just a few months afterwards Starfield. God,
I just pictured The Last of Us when Ellie talks to Joel about how trucks and vehicles used to drive around, but it's Ellie asking Joel about, hey, what about all those video game releases in 2023? And Joel's like, oh man, that was some good days, I tell you. These have some great stuff. Legend of Zelda came out. You don't know about Legend of Zelda, kid. I gotta tell you about it one day.
Oh man. Oh man. What a great time to be alive, I tell you. So, and everyone else, thank you so much. Stay healthy, stay safe, play some games, enjoy the summer, and
press X
to play.
I'm gonna go play Zelda. Good night.
Hasta la vista, baby.